Becky, and today I'm going to be talking about Ashlords by Reintgen. I initially requested this book off NetGalley because I really enjoyed his previous books, which are Saving Fable and Nixie. Ashlords is about a race where the humans race phoenix horses. And these phoenix horses will die every day with the sun, but rise every day with the sunrise. The race is a multi-day event, and we are following 3 different point of views of 3 different races, and they have very different backstories and cultural backgrounds, and even just kind of general background. Their motivations are very different, and their reasons for racing are completely different to each other. In order to win the race, you not only need to be good at racing the phoenix horses, you need to also be good at making them every morning with alchemy and their ashes, and also fighting, as during the evenings and nighttime when there's no sun, there's possibility, whilst murder is illegal in this race, breaking bones and poisoning ashes are not, and this can really affect your chances of winning. The first thing I want to talk about is how much I loved the phoenixes in this book. The phoenixes are horse-shaped, so completely different to any kind of phoenix book I've read before. And there's this alchemy thing where you can mix different ingredients in with the ashes to create these horses, which, whilst are the same phoenixes, have very different attributes than the day before. There's a lot of kind of myth and information about the phoenix horses for the races. Some of them will name their phoenixes the same thing every day. Some of them will name them differently every day because technically they are reborn as something else. And others just don't name them and see them as more as tools rather than pets. And there's lots of different ways of looking at the phoenixes, and I'm just really intrigued by them. Unfortunately, the book is focused on the humans rather than phoenixes, which is a shame, but I really liked the scenes where we got to see them kind of have different attributes and be born and to show off their powers. I found the race itself to be okay. I found it to be very Hunger Games-ish, mainly because of the way it's set up, but it didn't have the kind of relationships between characters that the Hunger Games did. So our characters very rarely met each other, or like one time our characters met each other and one of them was knocked out straight away and the other one was fighting with other people that weren't our main characters, while the other one was knocked out, and then they don't even speak the next day, they just kind of go about their business. Things like that. This was probably because the race is actually meant to be a race. They're meant to be getting to the finish line and not murdering each other. However, there are times where they are fighting each other and they are trying not to completely annihilate each other, but they want to stop them in their tracks. But because of this, I actually enjoyed the evening times in this book better because things were actually happening, whereas in the daytime, a lot of them were just trying to get their horse as fast as possible towards closer to the finish line, and there wasn't really a lot of things happening rather than traveling. And because more action was happening at night, this meant more action was happening without the phoenixes, which is the big selling point of this book and is what I was most excited for, and so it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't see more of them. Ashlords has 3 different points of views, which starts with Imelda, who I personally thought was the most interesting backstory. However, Imelda's story doesn't really link that much with Adrian's and Pippa's, other than they're all in the same race, and they don't really interact much either. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen in the second book because there wasn't really any relationships formed there, whether good or bad. Imelda has the most interesting backstory because she is a Davidian, which in this world denotes her as a lower class than the Ashlords or the Longhands, which our other 2 entrants are. And her main motivation for entering the races is to prove that Davidians can race and they can win. But because of the extreme bias towards Davidians from Ashlords, she realizes that she's never going to win because they're not going to let her, and instead she's going to do something else to rebel against them and to show them that she's not someone to be messed with. I really liked the strong storyline of her becoming more kind of aggressive in her rebellion towards the Ashlords, and I really liked the ending of this book as to the point she got to. I'm really trying hard not to spoil it, and I just liked her storyline as a whole. I think it felt natural and I really enjoyed the way it developed. Adrian is a Longhand, and they are still seen as lesser than Ashlords, but because Ashlords and Longhands are descended from the same people, they are seen as higher than Davidians in some cases. I find that the world building around the divide between these three different people really helps create the motivations that we understand as to why they're doing the things they're doing. And we know that Adrian and Adrian's father are trying to be a rebellion because Longhand are allowed land and they're not as controlled by the Ashlords, but they want to be in power and they want to be in charge. So Adrian's reasons for joining the race is very based on his attitude towards pleasing his father. I don't fully understand how winning this race could have started the rebellion that his father wanted. I'm still hazy on how that would be the effect of winning. However, I did enjoy how he developed a cautious attitude towards his own actions as to whether he was biased or not. Because he's an extremely clever person, but he's also very naive when it comes to family and the rebellion side that his father has trained him to be part of. And then our third point of view is Pippa, who is the child of two former race winners. She is the personification of that horse girl that you knew in school, and she's very entitled that she is going to win. However, she gets betrayed very early on in the book, and this changes her perspective completely. And whilst most of the time her motivation is to win and to be famous and to get her way, I really enjoyed the development as she became a better person, and I think she became more caring. Pippa's point of view is the only one written in second person as well, which is different, and I'm hoping there's kind of a bigger reason in the second book as to why this is the case. And Pippa is also one of the people that is given a spirit to guide her at the beginning of the race, which I'll talk about a bit more later on. And I believe that's one of the reasons why she was in second person, so we could see both the person and the spirit. In this book, all three characters are very naive at the beginning. They have their motivations and they know some things, but by the end, they've all grown. Despite being in this very small, constrained race, they have learnt things that they wouldn't have learnt if they weren't part of it. And I feel like this natural progression felt very real, and I enjoyed that all of them kind of started to think more about their actions by the end of the book, and I'm excited to see how they react in the next book when lots of other big things happen. In this book, there are also gods, and the premise of other worlds being around, and the gods live in the underworld, which has souls or people as well. However, they like to get involved in human games, which means they often try to get involved in the races, and they offer help to races to give them a spirit who will help cause chaos, basically. I love that this is a huge secret that Ashlords have been taking favors from the gods to win races, whereas loads of bad things have been happening in previous races, and no one can see the spirits apart from other people who also have spirits. But no one has ever discussed that they've been offered a boon from the gods in the races before if they've said no. And in general, I would have actually liked to see more of the gods because they were interesting. I wanted to know why they were getting involved and how they fit into the bigger picture of this book. But I'm assuming that this must be a second book storyline, otherwise, as it wasn't really discussed in this one. So the spirits I mentioned, like the one Pippa has earlier, are people from the underworld who are becoming a spirit in order to help the racer in return for being set free in their world. And I really liked the dynamic of Pippa and her spirit, because the spirit was clearly had a lot worse lifestyle than Pippa did, and this taught her a few lessons, especially about being a good person. Overall, I've really enjoyed the book, but I enjoyed the book as kind of a standalone book. Similar to the Hunger Games, it starts off with a game or a race, and the emphasis is that there's going to be a rebellion in the next book. I don't really want to read about the rebellion. I have no interest in finding out about the rebellion. I really like the characters and I really want to see more of the gods, but there's no hint that's what I'm going to get. So whilst I really love Scott's writing, I probably won't pick up the second book because I have so many other books that I would rather read. And I did like this book. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the different aspects, particularly the phoenixes and the character development. But I'm just not interested in reading more about the world. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.